Scene, no place, nowhere. The theatre, the light fall on the inscription of the active, the world, a theatre of varieties, lassie and manager Satan, is seen from the topmost steps completely open so that the stage, stalls and orchestra are visible somewhat foreshortened. The drop curtain is down, and in front of it is heroism is lying on the ground asleep, with ballet master Death lying across him, dead drunk, his skull propped up on heroism's chest. Widow Fear and her children, Suspicion and Panic, are cautiously treading on tiptoe, consulting in whisper, startled as if by ghosts in corners, hesitating whether and how it to go away. The last of the other passions are collecting their instruments in the orchestra. Pity, indignation, idealism, and adventure have vanished. The sleepy virtues in the stalls wake and rub their eyes preliminary to departing. Prejudice, temperance, fairness, and truthfulness exchanging horrified remarks. First, sleepy virtue. What a hideous dream.
Second sleepy virtue. I have had a nightmare.
Third and fourth, sleepy virtues. So have I, and I.
Fifth sleepy virtue. We must have been eating some forbidden apples of knowledge.
Sixth, sleepy virtue. Or else that all that poetry and eloquence fuddled us. All, well, thank heaven we are broad awake now, and can get out of this odious low-class booth. The sleepy virtues begin groping their way out of the half-darkness. Satan steps forward, unfolds his wings, revealing himself in the black effuge of his archangelic armor, to the muse of history and the ages to come who remain alone with him in the orchestra. Satan begins to switch off the last lights. Satan. Alas, even the longest performance must come to an end.
The longest and the most reusy, my dear Lord Satan. But before we disperse, allow me to express the deepest appreciation and gratitude on the part of the ages to come and my unworthy self. The remembrance of your matchless ballet of nations will be a frequent solace, I feel certain, in our usual humdrum existence.
Chorus of ages to come. Yes, indeed, that it will. One does need something great and heroic in order to pulley through the dreary days of peace and remind one of man's higher possibilities. Tutti, our heartfelt thanks to your lordship. The ages to come go up to Satan, courtesy and bob, and are revealed to be not the classic veiled figures they had previously appeared, but old ladies with long eyeglasses and old gentlemen, dignitaries in lank black coats and spats and half-pay colonels with white mustaches, all carrying lending library volumes of memoirs under their arms, alongside of their tucked-up Grecian draperies. Satan, with his hands now seen to be slightly claws on the last electric switch. Pas de quoi, dear friends, the pleasure has been on my side, and I must thank you for so much intelligent indulgence. Au revoir, ladies and gentlemen, and to our next merry meeting, dear old muse of history. As I have often said, what should you and I do without one another, I wonder? But I was forgetting I must close up the green room.
The muse, more than ever like a huge pouter pigeon, prima donna in her tightly drawn draperies with large key patterns, rolls out in her usual luscious contralto, with ill-concealed inquisitiveness. Your green room? I never thought of that. Of course, every theatre must have a green room. How deeply interesting. How...
Satan looks the muse long in the face and laughs. Well, what would you give your old playmate Satan if he were to admit you to an additional little spectacle, to show you a mystery?
Oh, Satan, dearest.
Chorus of ages to come. A mystery, my lord. Oh, we have to so love mysteries. Is it illusion or like the Iron Mask or the Chevrolet Dion?
Is it, well, how shall I put it? Is it very Scarborough?
Satan laughing. Oh no, not in the least. I fear you will be horribly disappointed. It is to the last degree respectable, however, as you have been so very kind to my poor ballet, it may interest you to see what was passing behind the stage. I must explain that, in view of future dramatic possibilities, I never omit to have everything that comes in my way adequately cinematographed and gramophoned. Besides, these records help to amuse my solitary leisure. Satan presses a button with a long clanging ring. The curtain rises. Satan helps the muse of history on the empty stage, to the empty stage, where, as already described, heroism is lying nearest the footlights, motionless, with ballet master Death asleep, propped up on him, snoring. The end of the stage is closed by a brilliantly lit magic lantern. Screen blank. On a table is a cinematograph apparatus. On another, a large gramophone of the sort marked his master's voice.
How marvelous! How truly magical! This is indeed the highest privilege your friendship has ever granted me. The hidden enigmas underlying your ballet of the nations, the dessous des cartes, as French orators say, the immortals at their work. For that, I take it, is the meaning of the mysterious inscription on your wonder-working machine. Jeetje.
Yeah.
Qui delirant rege plectuntur archivi, is it not? Or, in more modern language, that the million-headed crowd exists only to carry out the will of a half-dozen supermen. There.
Satan, it is as you say, dear much experienced recorder of the world calamities. What are you going to see and hear are indeed supermen. Say rather, the immortal gods in my little machine of myriadfold death and ruin. In other words, the heads of the nations. For it can scarcely have escaped your acumen that what passed muster for such during my ballet and rolled about on the shoulders of the dancing nations could be only cardboard masks. These are the real ones, the masters of masters of men's destiny, even if not always of royal birth or cabinet rank, sometimes more humble specimens of the investor, the homo economics, who sway the modern world.
Oh, dat is alleen maar regie. Oké. Moet ik deze zelf even doen? Of doe
Ja,
jij
is goed.
die,
Doe maar.
Okay. The muse clasps her hands and wags her head in delight, too deep for words. The ages to come nudge one another. Satan switches the current onto cinematograph and gramophone, which work in concert after a preliminary wheeze and clatter and a corresponding flicker and blur. The muse, after a sigh of delight. The real reality. How thrilling. How truly.
Views of buildings rather out of perspective jerk across the serene. People come in and out, presenting more of their boot soles more than usually sees, and voices garble nasally on the gramophone. However, as the double apparatus and also the attention of the spectators work more steadily, we become more aware of the succession, brief but clear, of interiors, public offices, newspapers, sanctums, embassy reception rooms, sometimes even quite humble private houses. Also committee tables and banqueting tables with people discussing or speechifying, lobbies in various countries, club rooms and houses of parliament and senates in different parts of the globe. They are full of figures in groups of twos and threes, going in and out, sometimes arm in arm, standing in front of fireplaces or before drinking bars, or else dictating at office desks, most frequently perhaps dining and playing bridge, and almost always smoking. These figures are mainly masculine, elderly, often bald, and not always very dignified. Some in uniform, some in plain clothes. They are very busy doing nothing in particular. Similarly, they talk a great deal with significant pauses and interruptions, but all they say is entirely elusive and disjointed, referring to something else which we have not heard, and tailing off into something we do not hear. The action, if it may be called action, like the talking, is a perpetual shuffle from place to place and topic to topic. One can see occasional significant gestures accompanied by insignificant words, but the main impression is of sentences like, well, yes, I always said as such, to be sure, bien attendu, something may have to be done. Things seem to be coming to a head. We shall have to decide. The whole being interspersed with a good deal of very friendly laughter. The muse and ages to come slowly pass from excitement to mystification, then boredom and ill-concealed disappointment.
Indeed. I see. Just so. Exactly.
These exclamations, fewer and further between, are the muse's answers to occasional isolated words like balance of power, 2 keels to 1, budget, loan, concessions, open door, railways, conscription, Morocco, Persia, Baghdad, money, markets, none of which words, however, lead to anything intelligible. Gradually, the muse gets to look horribly depressed, then angry, much to the amusement of Satan, who is watching her face. He suddenly switches off the current, the gramophone wheezes, the screen becomes blank, like a person at a concert. The muse snatches this opportunity to turn around, draw her draperies over her head and say,
Quite so. I understand. Most remarkable, I'm sure. Thank you, dear Lord Satan. But I fear the ages to come and I must now be saying goodbye and going on.
The muse extends her hand very frigidly. Satan, oh, don't go away, dear Cleo. You know you have no other engagement and are merely bored. There now, don't protest, my dear old friend. I warned you it would be horribly bourgeois. I ought also to have warned you. But forgive me, dearest muse, I couldn't resist the temptation of trying a little experiment upon you and your friends. The muse, furious and dignified.
An experiment on me? You have ventured to play the practical joke on the ages to come and me? I might have guessed as much if I had not had too much belief in your good breeding, my lord. Of course, it was evident that all this tosh had nothing to do with the ballet of the nations. But I never could have believed this was Satan's notion of a joke.
It is not a joke, but you have seen and heard is the most serious thing in the universe. It is reality. Only you couldn't recognize it.
I've had enough of your jests, my lord. It is enough you should have ventured to bore me with this pointless stuff, all about nothing at all, absolutely devoid of meaning.
Satan gravely. Yet the outcome of it was my ballet of the nations. Allow me to tell you, dear Cleo, that the meaning discernibly in reality depends upon the eye and mind of him who witnesses and hears it, and when the reality happens to be a fragment so vast, wide-spreading and intricate, and of such long duration of the preliminaries of my ballet, it needs perchance an eye accustomed to eternities, to take in connections and put two and two together. To you, who are a kind of artist, it means nothing, since you, dear Cleo, take no interest in the slow accumulation of cause and effect, which is called fate. The world, microscopic building by the heaping up of corpse on corpse of limestone insects in the ocean depths and their ages-long upheaval into alpine ranges, is nothing to you, and similarly with men's affairs, why even my ballet, as I heard you recording it, was not the real thing, though you thought it was. That catastrophe was long indeed, horrible, hideous, wonderful, heroic, more than you guessed, and far more really dramatic than all the fireworks and antics you eloquently described. But it was also frivolous in part and eminently boring. Reality is boring, 9/10 of it, and therefore unrecorded. I own I wanted to try how much you might be able to discern. That wasn't fair on an old friend, perhaps. Forgive me, therefore, and to make amends of thus abusing your patience on false pretenses, let me manipulate your reality so that you can take it in. Look, I will change the gearing of my magic apparatus, make the recorded acts and words which are scattered, interrupted, or too long drawn out, gather up into scenes intelligible to a distinguished critic of the drama like you. I will participate the action, omit detail, isolate essentials, typify the gestures and parody the words. I will, to please you, transform reality, which seems to have no point, into bare character, which has. Here is a little selection from pre-war years. Look, Cleo, and listen. Satan begins taking discs out of a drawer and inserts one into the gramophone. He continues pulling out and putting in discs all through the performance. Satan, now, my dear muse of history, we will begin with the little selection of scenes leading up to my ballet. I am really ashamed that the emptiness of my poor green room should oblige you and your appreciative friends to remain standing, but you will see and hear only the better. The cinema picture steadies itself into a newspaper office, with two men at a table. One, rather vulgar and unkempt, pours out a brandy and soda for the other, who is very well groomed and very well mannered.
Zal ik anders die first voice eens weer doen?
Ja, is goed.
Dan heb je ook weer even pauze.
Ja.
Okay, first voice. Vulgar and jocular. Of course, one doesn't expect you official gentlemen ever to know what concerns them. What's that old definition of a diplomat, eh? Je m'as rien vu, je m'as rien su, je m'as rien pu. So I won't waste my valuable time in making you guess what your principal ally is engaged in doing at this particular present moment.
Second voice, well, Brad, hesitating. My principal ally, you mean?
First voice, yes, my good man, your principal ally, your dear devoted ally.
Second voice, well, and what is he doing?
First voice, doing? Doing behind your back or rather on your nose? Why, he's busy burying the hatchet with the other chaps. What do you say to that, eh?
Second voice, do you mean those people of Ogreland? Good heavens, that can never happen. You must be misinformed, my dear editor.
I tell you what's happening at this very moment. He's going to open his money market to them. Now, will you believe? Peace all round, or the European happy family. That's what's being arranged behind your back. Perhaps that will suit your policy, eh? Only please remember, my good fellow, that if you suddenly discover that the balance of power has gone to pot, it won't have been my fault.
Second voice, more and ever well bred. Good heavens, you must have been misinformed. The gramophone wheezes. Satan changes the disc. The cinema shows a bourgeois house in the French provinces, a table covered with oilcloth, a father and son having lunch, napkins in their buttonholes, also motto.
Ja, hoe gaan we deze even doen?
Ja, om de beurt, denk ik.
Oké, is goed. Son. But, mon père, if you are so sure that the Alsatians are dying to be reunited to us, it is surely your duty to fight for their liberation.
Father, fight, parlez et votre assez, mon petit. You weren't there in the 1870s. I was.
Son. Yes, and you fought to defend Paris against the reactionaries. You were a communard, thank heaven.
Mother, there's no need to rake that up. That's what comes of your frequenting those horrible socialists, all atheists, as Malabe tells me.
Blijf jij vader doen of moet ik die nu even doen?
Doe jij mijn vader, ja.
Okay. Father. The commune. One fights for liberty when one is a boy and for order and property when one's a father.
Son, and one arranges to fight for order and property against the Russian people, I suppose, when they implore one not to side with their tyrants and lend their money.
Father. What tyrants? The Tsar is our ally. And if we ever get back Alsace, sacre bleu, it'll be thanks to him.
Son, I thought you just now said you wouldn't fight to liberate Alsace.
Father. No more I would. But if someone else were to fight those dirty Germans, we should get it back.
Son, and for that you are lending money to the Tsar, who treats his own subjects, let alone Poles and Finns, 1,000 times worse than the dirty Germans treat Alsace.
Father. My son. My money is mine, and I am the sole judge how to invest it. And when you come to my age, you will thank me for being a reasonable and peace-loving man. Not a cervelle brûlée thinking of Russians and Poles and Alsatians with their ridiculous accent.
Son, then why not bury the hatchet and leave the Alsatians to settle with Germany?
Father. My son, I am ashamed of you. But I know that is only the pacifist rubbish you learn at socialist meetings, and in the absurd ranks of fellows like Jaurès and Simbad. Sapristi, is one or is one not French, I wonder? So never let me hear a word against Russians or the Russian loan, which is guaranteed, practically, by our government.
The gramophone wheezes, and the screams becomes blank. Satan changes the disc. The cinema shows the committee room of the International Armament Trust. Directors, some of them visibly ex-military and ex-naval officers speaking with various foreign accents. Chairman, I regret extremely having to tell you, my dear Rear Admiral, that this board has not re-elected you for the coming year. The fact is that ever since your last daughter made such a very good marriage, it has seemed to us that you no longer display the usual energy in dealing with your former naval colleagues.
Ex-Rear Admiral, stiffening himself. Sir, allow me to tell this committee quite plainly that what you refer to has no sort of connection with my daughter's marriage. What you asked of me about obtaining that those ships, built only 5 years ago, should be scrapped, is a thing I could not honorably undertake. There is a limit to what an honest man can do. Those ships were perfectly up to date, in my opinion.
A direct German accent. You forget that unless they were scrapped and new ones ordered, it became extremely difficult for me to insist on my ex-naval colleagues in Ogerland ordering new ships. There was nothing on which to base an agitation in my country.
Chairman, let me assure you, my dear Admiral, that our committee is most grateful for your past services. And, of course, now all your daughters are so well married and you are yourself a widower, you must evidently please yourself in such matters.
Ex-Rear Admiral, oh, but the fact is, I'm going to marry again.
Chairman, in that case I have no doubt this committee will be delighted to re-elect so valuable a member a couple of years hence.
Exits ex-Rear Admiral. Chairman, And now we had better take this opportunity of examining the expenses of the last mission to Great Bear Land and the Far East. General, I regret to express this board's surprise at the magnitude of the sums which you have spent in this work.
Ex-General, Russian accent. What? You insinuate?
Chairman, we insinuate nothing. We merely point to the bill presents for your working expenses.
Ex-General. Gentlemen, I can assure you, je vous jure parole d'honneur, that I'm seriously out of pocket on that transaction. The Prime Minister suddenly doubled his claims when he understood how much we required this concession for those new steelworks in my country. He went so far as to threaten to hint to the government of Oberland that it was all bluff and that they needn't set up similar additional works in reply. He had the knife at our throats. Hardly had I settled with him, and most satisfactorily, you will agree, when up came 2 Grand Dukes wanting loans, and the Archimandrite Simeon, who has the monarch's ear and was horribly insistent. Indeed, I still have to deliver a diamond riviere I had to promise to a lady were very influential in all armament matters. Parole d'honneur, I am a ruined man if you dismiss me, and a ruined man may become a desperate one.
Chairman, we will look once more into your business, so assure General, let us pass on.
Levantine Director. Have you remarked, gentlemen, that those socialist ruffians have again proposed at the International Congress to bring pressure on the various governments to nationalize all armament industries?
French Director, the chief socialist leaders shall be given subordinate seats in these respective ministries. We know how to deal with socialists and turn them into first-class patriots, don't we?
German Director. Perhaps in your country. In my view, we want a good European war to break up these precious pacifists and put the rest of them in prison.
English Director. All very fine, but I'm not convinced that actual war is really advantage. All very fine, but I'm not convinced that actual war is really to our advantage. It would, of course, represent a rapid momentary turnover of capital, but if it is lasted too long, it might result in universal bankruptcy and disarmament.
French Director. Bah! The victor would always have to arm against the vanquished, and the nation is never too bankrupt for that.
American Director. I agree that on the whole, and so long as we keep on changing the fashion sufficiently often and making these nations compete sufficiently, armed peace is really more to our advantage.
Chairman. Besides, it will, of course, lead to war in a natural and thorough-going way. So I am for armed peace.
The gramophone wheezes. Satan inserts a disc. The cinema shows breakfast at a vicarage. Vicar's mother. My dear boy, don't ask me to invest in the small arms and high explosives LCD instead of the Canadian apple growers. You see, I love apples and I can't bear war.
Vicar. But, mother dear, armaments prevent war.
Mother, still you can't say all those bayonets and shells are meant to kill men.
Vicar. I am a priest. Nobody can kill me.
Mother, no, thank God, but all men aren't priests, and all men are mother's sons, and they may be killed if we keep paying people to make these horrid things.
Vicar. Well, mother dear, do you suppose the bishop hasn't thought that all out? He's got ever so many shares, and then there is the archdeacon.
Mother, the archdeacon, that saint, are you sure?
It's he who sent me the prospectus. He's got all his money in it.
Mother, well, dear boy, I suppose if it's good enough for the archdeacon, she signs. One mustn't be self-righteous, I suppose. Of course, I should have preferred the apples.
Vicar. You shall buy tons of Canadian apples out of your high explosive dividends, mother.
The gramophone wheezes and the screen becomes blank. Satan changes the disc. The cinema now represents an absurdly furnished drawing room in a modern hotel. Two elderly gentlemen smoking cigars on a divan. First voice. There is nothing in the world my country and government would like better than European peace based upon our friendship.
Second voice. A friendship between us and European peace based upon it is the greatest desideratum of my government and country.
First voice. But then you have allies.
But then you have an entente.
Oh, never for purposes of aggression.
Oh, only for purposes of self-defense.
What is aggression?
What is self-defense?
What is an alliance?
What is an entente?
Ah, my dear Excellency, you are well aware that, as philosophers tell us, there are many important things like truth, beauty, goodness, which no man can define, but all men can recognize. Who, for instance, shall give us a precise definition of what constitutes a model? Yet it may happen to all of us to find ourselves in one. The gramophone wheezes, Satan changes the disc, the cinema represents the deck of a yacht. The same two elderly gentlemen are walking up and down in appropriate garments, smoking cigarettes. First voice. I think I may say that my government and the country would be delighted to hand over to you the chief harbours belonging to the Queen of Sheba.
Second voice. I feel convinced that my government and country would make no difficulties about your protectorate of North Xanadu.
I think I am expressing the cordial pleasure with which both countries would divide up the regions of the river Alp.
In fact, nothing could be more remarkable than the way in which the interests of both countries coincide.
All my government and country would ask is an assurance that you cease increasing your navy for the next 10 years from now.
Oh, but my government has just undertaken to increase its navy during a period of 10 years.
Then we shall have to build 3 keels to your one.
And we shall have to demand a new military credit.
A slight pause. They walk the length of the deck. How delightful is it to realize that your Excellency is a countryman of the illustrations thinker who wrote the first treatise on perpetual peace.
I cannot tell you, Excellency, how eagerly I am looking forward to your elucidation of Hegel's principle of universal reconciliation.
Ah, yes, Hegel's Verzoening, the reconciliation of contradictions, that is at the bottom of philosophy to my humble thinking.
The reconciliation of contradictions as the guiding principle in history. What a depth in that notion. Which reminds me, does your government happen to have any engagement besides those we are aware of?
That depends upon what you are aware of, but surely your Excellency must be aware of everything that is in the last degree interesting. Yes, Verzoening, what a wonderful principle. Verzo, the gramophone wheezes, the screen becomes blank, Satan inserts another disc. The cinema shows the interior of a sugar refinery in foreign parts. Through a window, a group of tall chimneys are belching black smoke into a withering pine and a medieval belfry. The place is flagged and garlanded, and a brass band is braying at the foot of a staircase among a crowd of sickeningly and ragged work people. This is in honor of a minister who has been visiting the factory in company with several manufacturers in close-buttoned frock coats, with lavender kid gloves stuck in the breasts. Also a general covered with gold, a prelate with purple buttons down his front, and a professor in spectacles, manuscript bulging his pockets. On a table, along with cigars, is a tray of thick sandwiches and tall glasses of steaming beverage. Kun jij de minister doen?
Yeah, the minister, while the band plays downstairs. Let me congratulate you on the excellence of your punch. It gives a most favourable impression of your sugar, my dear Baron. May I examine a lump? Takes one from the sugar basin and examines it carefully through his eyeglass. Ah, beautifully crystalline. A credit to your country.
First manufacturer. No, Excellency, this really is cane sugar, not beetroot, as better suited for punch. Our own sugar, owing to the chemical properties of our soil, is rather deficient. I mean, it has none of that cloying sweetness which obliges one to use cane sugar with so much discretion for ordinary purposes.
The minister. Ah, I quite understand. He raises his glass. I drink to our beetroot sugar industry, which, thanks to the wonderful and commercial genius of this distinguished syndicate, and I may add, the fostering care of an enlightened government, which knows how to temper theoretical free trade with practical protection, has filled this one sylvan district with tall chimneys and given work in abundance. I am told wages rise to 14 shillings weekly in good years, to thousands of industrious families who are languishing in the monotony of a corn grower's life.
Everyone bows and clinks glasses. At the sign of the chief manufacturer, the crowd shouts, "Long live our illustrious Minister of Agriculture and Commerce!" and disperses. The gentlemen, after much bowing, take seats and go on drinking and smoking huge cigars. First manufacturer. Well, my dear ministers, you have now seen the miracles which beetroot sugar has been accomplished. The dessert, as the prophet says, has blossomed like a rose. He waves towards the chimneys, which are emitting a very sickening smoke. Everyone claps. Well, what my fellow directors and myself beg you now to say, our government, is that all this splendid progress is threatened by a very serious deficit, which is staring our shareholders in the face, fostered by wise government measures which protected our infant manufacturer from alien competition. Our beet sugar industry has attracted so much capital and labor that we have increased our plant and production, and now find ourselves with vast quantities of sugar, which the country, I grieve to say, refuses to absorb with the celerity needed to our dividends.
Another manufacturer. What our illustrious Baron says applies almost exactly to the steel industry, which has developed so miraculously, considering our country's total lack of coal and iron.
Another manufacturer. The cotton industry is not in quite so bad a way yet, but the high prices at which, thanks to wise governmental fostering, we have been able to sell our wares by the exclusion of foreign ones, is resulting in a remarkable contraction of the demand. People are going about in rags, as your Excellency doubtlessly notice.
The minister, getting uncomfortable. Well, my dear Baron, for a grateful country honours you by the title of Baron of Sugar, Baron of Steel, and Baron of Cotton. Why not sell outside the country?
The manufacturers look at each other aghast. First manufacturer. But sugar is only a quarter the price in other countries. Our climate is unfavorable.
Second manufacturer. But I had explained that we have neither iron nor coal, and that a spade or scythe costs 4 times as much in our country as abroad.
Third manufacturer. You can't get 6 English cotton shirts for the price of one of all ours.
The minister. In that case, I really don't see what I can do for you.
First manufacturer solemnly, Sir, this illustrious geographer here will inform you that there exists not very far from our seas and in close contact with some of those colonies which spread our civilization, a nation of Negroes.
Professor bows and pulls MS out of his pocket. Negroes now subjects of the Queen of Sheba, but whom monolithic monuments there show to have been under the influence of our ancestors of the later Stone Age. Moreover, pronounced brachycephalus and
And first manufacturer pushes the professor aside. Quite so, quite so. Our illustrious geographer was going to add that these Negroes.
Professor. Brachycephalus, please remember, and possessing monolithic monuments.
First manufacturer. Always consume many thousands tons of cane sugar from the West Indies.
Second manufacturer. Import a considerable supply of steel and iron implements from England.
Third manufacturer. Cloth themselves, however, scantily in cotton goods from India.
The minister. Ah!
First manufacturer. Well, sir, these Negroes.
Professor. Distinctly brachycephalus and connected with our ancestors by these monolithic monuments.
First manufacturer. These Negroes must be made to eat, or at least buy, our sugar.
Second manufacturer. They must use our iron and steel implements and, if possible, our steel rails.
Third manufacturer. They must clothe themselves so far as the climate allows of any clothing in our cotton goods.
The minister. Do you expect me to order your brachy Negroes to transfer this custom to you?
Professor, allow me to answer His Excellency. These Negroes being, as I said, brachiophilous and closely connected by their monuments with our own earlier civilization, are ardently desirous of being reunited to our ancient, I might say, primeval empire.
First manufacturer. And once this desire is fulfilled, they will naturally benefit by all the progress we have since achieved. They will participate in our administration and be shielded by our laws and, of course, our beneficent system of commercial and industrial protection.
General, they will enroll themselves or be conscripted enthusiastically under our victorious banners and form a contingent the more important that their birth rate runs to 30 or 40 children apiece.
Prelates. They will abandon their idolatry and embrace our pure and peaceful religion, abjuring the slave trade.
The minister. But what you propose means a war of annexation, and besides, the Queen of Sheba, who at present owns these Negroes, I am informed that every other nation except the one which already supplies them with necessaries under a mistaken free trade regime has earmarked them similarly for annexation.
General. But we can conquer them with next to no expense or loss of time from our colonies.
Prelate. But the barefooted friars have already bought immense tracts of land among them for their missionary schools, and our pious clerical banks have mortgaged other vast tracts from their chiefs.
The minister. But all this will embroil us with our neighbors. It means new alliances, increased armaments. It may end in a European war.
Professor, unless, Excellency, it be made of coincide with a European war.
General, it is the simplest way of enlarging our military effectives without raising our own conscription to 5 years.
Prelate, it is the simplest way of giving additional sons to Christ.
First manufacturer. It is the only way to save the beetroot sugar industry.
And the iron and steel industry?
And the cotton industry.
The minister. Not so fast, it isn't my business. You know, I am a man of peace. I can only undertake to lay your suggestions before my colleagues in some future cabinet council.
Professor. Pray remember, Excellency, that these Negroes and brachycephalus and that their monolithic monuments proclaim them to have originally belonged, if not to our race, at all events to a Stone Age culture.
First manufacturer. It may be some more to the point if your Excellency will lay before your colleagues of the cabinet that not only our shareholders have votes, but thanks to the progress of democracy in our enlightened country, every one of our thousands of operatives enjoys the same privilege. And if our industries, and especially our sugar industry,
and our steel industry,
and our cotton industry,
First manufacturer, I'm not provided with a new debouché protected by a flight from alien competition. Why all those millions of votes will go to the socialists?
The minister hurriedly, I will give you your message, gentlemen. The band plays. The gramophone wheezes.
Muse. Delightful.
Satan smiles and inserts a new disc. Satan, I am so pleased you like it so far. We are now coming to something more nouvemente, as you would say, de Clio. The cinema represents a palace garden full of allegorical statues and triumphal arches. A monarch is walking up and down in company with 2 or 3 generals. An inquirer presents a telegram to the monarch, who after opening it negligently gives a tremendous start.
First voice. Good God. Nein, unglaublich. Gentlemen, of what do you think that this dispatch acquaints me? My venerable cousin's young cousin, the heir apparent of the most ancient and most Christian empire of Felix Noob, has just been murdered near the railway station of a small town in the disaffected district he was graciously visiting.
Several voices. What? Prince Balthasar Augustin, the hope of Felix Noob, murdered? Dead? Your Majesty does not say so.
First voice, much distressed. Murdered! Shot dead with his, although of course only morganatic, concert. The heir of so great a monarchy. Good Lord, gentlemen, what I ask you, what is this world coming to?
Second voice bluntly. Coming to you, your Majesty. Why, to the very thing most urgently needed for the world's moral salvation.
Third voice. This truly regrettable and most atrociously criminal event may yet, once we have brought a tribute of tears to the noble and named prince, may yet, I say it, subject to all highest correction, turn out the greatest stroke of luck your empire has had for many years.
First voice extremely perpetuated. Luck? Have you no sense of moral fitness, my dear general? Don't you understand that it is a prince who has been murdered? A crown prince, a member of one of the most august and sacred reigning families, an heir apparent, almost on the steps of a throne. Moreover, my first cousin. Alas, alas, that heaven should have been pleased to send us to live in these godless democratic days.
Third voice. Undoubtedly a dreadful trial for all right-minded and pious men. But your Majesty's grief should not blind all highest perspicacious eyes to the fact that this providently timed crime affords the opportunity of making an end, once and for always, to all his unmanly and dangerous democratic twaddle.
First voice. General, what do you mean? You seem shockingly insensible to the horror of political assassination.
Second voice, solemnly. The medicine for political assassination and for all socialistic and irreligious unrest, your Majesty, is the ancient purge and tonic vouchsafed by heaven for a sickly world. War.
War. The gramophone wheezes.
Capital. First rate.
The cinema shows a veranda by the riverside. People in flannels at lunch, also ladies. First voice. I really must tell you and our spiritual hostess a very funny thing which occurred this morning. It is really unheard of and most amusing, and confirms all our opinions of certain persons. Well then, at 10 o'clock, while I was finishing my déjeuner d'anglais, who should come but my secretary, with a face a yard long, to tell me that 6 months ago you had made a naval engagement with our amiable common neighbours. I told him he must be dreaming, for my government has never told me a word about it. Or is it possible that my enemies have left me in the dark on purpose? Do tell me.
Second voice, laughing immoderately. That is a good joke. That old story. You are to be congratulated on your secretary, my dear Excellency. Why, it's an answered. There was a question in the house and I duly answered it. Now I want you to try this vulgar beverage which is sacred to river-paced parties in this country. It is called shandy gaff.
Shandy Gaff? Ah, so this is Shandy Gaff, which I have read about in our great novelist Dickens. Do let me taste it. You know I adore all local customs, everything that has the gout du terroir. The gramophone wheezes, the cinema represents an imperial wardrobe with rows and rows of different uniforms hanging in open presses. The monarch is walking up and down attended by his staff and by an ambassador in mutton chop whiskers. The monarch occasionally stops and pulls out the sleeve or trouser leg of one of the uniforms and looks at it very gravely. First voice: Why, I have kept Europe at peace for 25 years.
Second voice, the ambassador. The very reason, so please your majesty, for not keeping Europe at peace 26. Let me implore your majesty not to become imbued with those pacifist illusions, which, however creditable to the idealism of your imperial heart, merely prevent your majesty seeing the real dangers of the present situation. The great white bear.
First voice: Dear old Nicky, now that's a pacifist and idealist if you like. Laughs. There's nothing to fear from his side. His family and mine have already adored each other, are fond. And after all, we and of course your venerable master of Felix Noob are the only real monarchs still left in the world.
Second voice. Your majesty, dear Nicky, may adore you as much as you choose, but it's different with us in Felix Noob. His entourage is bent upon breaking up our monarchy for the benefit of his little vassals.
First voice: Allons donc, my dear ambassador. My Nicky's entourage is composed of monks and archimandrites.
Second voice. And behind these are his head of police, who know that the only way of staving off a new and final revolution. Your majesty knows there is a general strike threatened in Hyperborea. It is to embark upon a holy war.
First voice: Not a bad idea either. It might be the way to stop all these confounded socialists. Though, of course, dear excellency, I have only to say a word, and all my socialists will recognize that I represent all that is sane and practical in socialism. They would all rally round my victorious and in all essentials eminently modern and progressive banner.
Second voice. No doubt, no doubt. But if your majesty will allow me to return to my previous remark, your country and mine are encircled by enemies, and there can be no doubt that the great white bear. Then there is our admirable Cisalpine, an ally getting a little tired of his famous tour de valse with your majesty, and making eyes at partners on the other side.
First voice: Yes, the ungrateful little baggage, and we who have given it one province after another and enabled it to have a far better army and navy than it ever wanted. All the same, our dear little Machiavels know which side the bread is buttered, and my Cisalpine cousin has just made me a colonel of his 100 halberdiers. Here, you see, is the uniform, not quite worthy of the ancient artistic fame of that country. When I think what a design for a helmet, real Renaissance, but quite practical. I could have made them, but you were saying, my dear ambassador. The monarch glances over his shoulder at a pier glass and adjusts his mustache, then continues turning over the uniforms. You were, I think, saying.
Then there is the perfidious Leviathan building 3 Kils 301. It has moreover engaged to defend the coast of Marianne and entered into an informal agreement with the White Bear.
Oh, Leviathan is all right, my dear excellency. They love me because I give them such good advice about colonial warfare and the laying out of public promenades, and because I was so attentive to my venerable ancestors, I never failed to send her flowers on her birthday. Besides, they have a peace, retrenchment, and reform ministry, and their hands full with those odd manoeuvring people whom I had to lunch here lately. The proof is that they have just made me colonel of their mountain artillery, a becoming uniform for a sovereign who happens to have a leg through a little chilly. The monarch caresses a kilt in one of the open wardrobes.
Second voice. All the more reason, Your Majesty, for choosing this moment to have done, once and for all, with that alliance between the White Bear and Marianne. We could smash them in a week.
First voice, but I don't like war, and only preparedness for war which is necessary to brace a noble nation's spirits. At least I don't like war more than a member of my family always must like war. Of course, the lamented Prince Balthasar Augustin was a very pleasant, well-informed man, even if he did marry beneath his rank, though I am bound to say, and I said it to my wife, that the lady was quite presentable, but it really is no business of mine if he got himself murdered. And Felix Noob is luckily well off for heirs not quite so apparent but quite ready to put in an appearance. Eh, my dear ambassador? Laughs at his own joke.
Sir, remember that when you have allowed the White Bear and your Cisalpine cousin to eat up Felix New, you will be left without a friend in the world. You can't ally yourself. Come now, with these preposterous cutthroat little nations whom Felix New is supposed to oppress. A word in time, Your Majesty. Your monarchy requires Felix New as much as Felix New requires you.
First voice. Require you? For what, I wonder? Against the toy militia of Leviathan and its liberal shopkeepers who will never make war, least of all in favour of a barbarous Asiatic despotism and against a scion of their royal house, or against those degenerates of Mariana, with their most unchristian two-child regime. No, don't let's exaggerate, my dear ambassador.
Second voice, with vehement solemnity. Sir, let not history have to record that when the call came from on high, to save from destruction the most venerable throne of all Europe, it happened that the greatest living monarch, the mystic Grail King, consecrated to be God's right hand, hesitated for a moment. I implore your Majesty's forgiveness for my unseemly vehemence. Love for my august, heartbroken master has caused me to overstep. And that reminds me, what message shall I take my aged sovereign from your Majesty?
First voice, rhetorically with a fine gesture. Tell him that whensoever God's mandate comes, then will the Grail King interrupts himself and continues hurriedly. In short, please say all sorts of kind things to the good old man, and tell him that my consort and myself will send a little tribute of flowers to put upon the poor crown prince's coffin. And now I really must be off to refresh my mind on my new yacht. Also I have to say a few encouraging words to my valiant U-boats. Goodbye. The gramophone wheezes, Satan changes the disc, the cinema shows the room in the War Office of Ogerland. The ambassador with mutton chop whiskers in private converse with 2 or 3 generals. Ambassador. He really is impossible to deal with. Excuse me my saying so, I thought I had moved him a little by playing on the religious romantic, the Wagner. Stop, I went so far as to compare him with the Grail King, but there it is. It is one's always up against that. Well, that extraordinary dislike he has to bloodshed.
First General. Poor fellow. It's quite genuine. It's a constitutional idiosyncrasy. Some people feel like that about oysters. A field marshal I once knew couldn't be in the same room with them. But believe me, dear ambassador, you'll be all right once the band strikes up and there's a call for prancing and eloquence.
Second General, only let him be safe out of our way for the next few days. I'll answer for him once the die is cast.
Ambassador, once the die is cast, but who is to cast it?
First General, why Felix Newps, to be sure.
Ambassador, will you undertake to get it regarded by your people as a casus foederis?
First General, oh well, a casus foederis is going a little too far. Our alliance being purely defensive, rather let us say a blank check. We offer to exert our influence with you in favor of peace. Then we turn our backs. Do you see?
Ambassador, and when we look round, will you promise to be standing there, well, in your celebrated shining armor?
The door has opened and the monarch enters.
Oh, I was not aware that your majesty was honoring our little chat with your presence. Indeed, I imagined your majesty was off on your cruise.
The monarch. So I should be if they hadn't made a trifling mistake in executing my designs for a Viking's uniform. But what were you saying about shining armor, eh?
Ambassador, only alluding to the Grail King, your majesty, only remarking how conducive that immortal remark of your majesty's had been to keep the peace of Europe.
The monarch. Ha! My words are really as persuasive as my guns. Goodbye for the moment, and my love to my aged cousin.
First General, once he's well out of the way, you just proceed with your well-known moderation and discretion in the matter of that ultimatum.
The ambassador. Do you mean, as it says on the codex, just press the button?
Second General, laughing. And we'll do the rest.
The gramophone wheezes. Satan changes the disc. The cinematograph shows a library. Two statesmen, one of whom we have seen previously pretending to play chess. The other statesman, I fear then that your mission must be considered a failure.
The usual statesman, but by no means a failure, since it has cleared away all doubts and, if the situation develop, all hesitation. It was no good offering them concessions in the Queen of Sheba's territory, or anywhere else, no good threatening to increase her armaments if they persisted in increasing theirs. They say they want peace, but it isn't what we consider peace. In similar cases, the only possible way to reconcile after conflicting contingencies is for us also to offer peace, but prepare for war. I may say with a clear conscience that throughout my whole career I have done my best to proceed in both these contrary directions.
The other statesman, you have indeed, and I am sure the world will never forget your services. But meanwhile, all this preparing for war while trying for peace cost a devil of a lot. It might almost be described as spelling ruin, let alone unpopularity. Our people, who can be expected to understand the underlying philosophy of this policy, are getting bored with the endless building and scraping of expensive navies. This parabellum policy leaves our party with neither money nor leisure for the vast internal reforms to which it is pledged. That is education, housing, land, tenure, endowment, for research, baby culture, and the reform of the House of Lords. But how can we turn to any of these things so long as those ruffians go on piling up armies and navies, and oblige us to addle our brains about budgets? Upon my words, this armed peace, these hostile camps of alliances, are worse than war.
Worse than war?
Oh well, of course one doesn't mean such remarks to be taken literally. Of course war is the most unparalleled of calamities, the most unthinkable horror indeed, one which no decent mind can bear to contemplate. Still, one can't help sometimes just thinking how delightfully peaceful it would be if only one had made an end of it all.
Do you mean made an end to them?
The other statesman, oh well, perhaps not to them, indeed, certainly not to them. I'm sure this country wouldn't wish to make an end to so much as a fly. I mean, make an end to their, shall we say, militarism. Once that we thoroughly cleared away, why one might get rid of the balance of power, that, what was it, Bright called it? Something idle. Ah yes, foul idle. I always did think Bright's language was sometimes a little excessive. One might have a concert of nations, of free nations, a peaceful and democratic world.
Ah, yes. The Lion and the Lamb, as Isaiah recommended in such a highly practical spirit. That idea is, indeed, at the bottom of all my political philosophy, and, I may say, of all my practical efforts. The reconciliation of the two conflicting ideas, peace and war.
It is indeed the basis of all true statesmanship, only how to do it.
My dear Lord, this country has been in no doubt about how to do it, quite half a dozen times in its career, and to its external credit and the salvation of mankind. Take Philip II, Louis XIV, Napoleon. There is no doubt that in the last case especially, we gave peace, the peace of Vienna, to Europe.
True, we did it in all those cases by crushing the other party, and that unhappily requires war, and war is a horror which no decent man can so much as think of, and which the country, and especially the liberals in this country, would regard as an expiable crime.
Not if the other people begin.
To be sure, he starts very slightly, that hadn't occurred to me.
Oh boy. QM de Volt.
Yeah.
What is the exact quotation about the gods making people mad when they want to undo them?
I fear my Latin has got rather rusty, but I grasp the meaning, although I can't quite parse it.
In the same way, I often think there is a deeper meaning, an ethical and political meaning, in the information given us by Scripture that the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh.
Wasn't that just a bit rough on Pharaoh? There were a lot of plagues and massacres which, though quite legitimate, then would shock our modern conscience, a certain disregard to increased human suffering.
My dear old friend, allow me to remind you that ethics, which is the science of good and evil, has nothing to do with increase or decrease of suffering. Ethics takes cognizance only of responsibilities.
Is that so? Well, of course, war undoubtedly does increase suffering, and in so far in a most shocking thing to a modern conscience, one couldn't possibly make oneself responsible for it, could one?
The usual statesman with a deprecating gesture looking up from the chessboard. Of course not. But if it were forced upon one.
The gramophone wheezes. The cinema shows a minstrel's smoking room. Two diplomats engage in a conversation, one like a very old thin racehorse and the other like a very podgy pony. First voice. I can only repeat that your government need not be in the least degree nervous. We cannot indeed commit ourselves to anything so definite as a promise, but while keeping our hands completely free, we can assure your Excellency of our hearty cooperation.
Second voice. But, mon cher collègue, you must allow me to point out that if we really require. Enfin, vous êtes maîtresse, n'est-ce pas?
One moment, they want me on the telephone. Will you look at that punch? Hello? Oh, it's you. Quite well, thanks. I hope you didn't catch cold on the river. Oh, Do I understand that your people are asking about an order for additional battleships? They've had confidential information from our friends of the International Armament Trust. Tell them it's probably a little bit of commercial advertisement. Goodbye, rings off. Forgive me, dear Excellency. You were saying? Let me repeat that your Excellency has not the least need to feel nervous. We can only...
Mais, permettez. I require.
The gramophone wheezes. The cinema shows the House of Commons, very empty. An authoritarian voice. Nee, een autoratieve. The answer is the negative. The gramophone wheezes. The cinema represents the drawing room of a peeress, a committee of ladies at a table. First female voice. Madam Chairman, I wish to point out to this committee for supplying hospital requisites for our troops in Ireland.
Second female voice. Order! Order! I shall proceed to read to this committee the resolution empowering your chairman to inquire of each member how many wounded volunteers from Ireland she can undertake to make room for within...
Third female voice. Those darling volunteers. But I'm certain that dear Holy Roman Majesty will come to their assistance. Anything, I always say, rather than separation from the mother country. The gramophone wheezes. The screen remains blank.
Enchanting. It's heating up.
It is, says Satan. What's coming ought to be reeled off at a tearing pace. But I shall slow my machine so that you may be able to follow. So, Satan sets both apparatus going. The cinema keeps running one picture into another. The gramophone snaps out a series of short sentences, each punctuated with a wheeze. First voice. I must point out to our Excellency that the Treaty of 1796 makes express provision.
Second voice. The sanctity of international agreements imperatively demands.
Third voice. Self-defense can know no law.
Fourth voice. The balance of power absolutely requires.
Fifth voice. National honor is engaged.
Sixth voice. We should be left without a friend.
Seventh voice. Neutrality.
Eighth voice. Integrity.
Ninth voice. Independence.
10th voice. Diplomatic secrecy obliges us.
11th voice. The Times has a leading article.
12th voice. Public opinion in his country insists.
13th voice. Such a thing as war is utterly inconceivable.
14th voice. Infamous proposals.
15th voice. Scraps of paper.
16th voice. My passports.
Satan slows off a little. The cinema shows a railway platform with train drawn up. People with bouquets at the windows of the train. Others bowing on the platform. First voice. Au revoir, chérie, excellence, bon voyage.
Second voice at the window. I shall never forget the guard of honor. I am indeed touched. Vous m'avez comblé de prévenance. There is nothing to come up to your dear country.
The train starts, hats are waved, the gramophone wheezes, the cinema shows only a blank, but a voice says, now we must have a good press. There is a sudden wheezing pause, during which the ages to come exchange looks of foolish intelligence.
Truly fascinating. Do let us have some more, my dear Satan.
Satan, it is rather good fun, all those delicious old boys, isn't it? Now you shall hear quite another bit, when the ballet is in full swing. Satan puts by a lot of gramophone disc in a drawer and locks it very carefully. Satan to the muse. To prevent confusion, dear Cleo, please make it quite clear to our friends, the ages to come, that what they have just witnessed was a retrospect. The first scenes took place years before the opening of the ballet, so you so much enjoyed. And even the very last of the set predecessed it may preceded oh yeah it may it by some days. The first one, for instance, was quite, if I may say so, to Cleo, ancient history. Satan unlocks another drawer and begins arranging a heap of discs which he takes out. Satan: I wish we had time for a larger selection of pre-war incidents, as you, the muse, will call them, when you set it all forth with the necessary style noble. I should have liked to show you the gradual preparation for my ballet, not merely in the last few years, but all through a century, indeed, all through all the centuries, since every war has been prepared by every other war, indeed by every other treaty of peace. The needful feelings and prejudices accumulating through the ages in my storehouse, ready to shift about, as an earthly manager shifts the same old properties from one side of the stage to the other. However, even these few samples will have served to illustrate a thing I told you during our preliminary talk in hell. I mean that calamities, since mankind feels my ballet to be calamities of this kind, do not spring from the small and negligible item, which suffering and angry men call guilt. My excellent minion, confusion, that is to say, muddle headiness, perfectionaries, and apathy, contrives the necessary entanglements and deadlocks during years. But once these preparations are made, delusion bursts in, inventing plausible motives, held by enthusiasm, fear, and hatred, reasons so called for what are in reality more idiotic bungles left to chance. Well, my kind friends, now we have done with the pre-war selection, and we'll have a few scenes which you must imagine taking place behind the world stage when the ballet is already raging. Indeed, the first is just about the moment when pity and indignation came on, with, as you will remember, such a fine effect and to such good purpose. Attention. Satan sets his double apparatus in motion. The cinema shows distant cupolas, pines, and broken columns through wide open windows. Several elderly gentlemen at coffee and cigarettes. First voice. What's this absurd story that I hear? They surely haven't the impudence to offer you Gog and Magog, my dear Prime Minister.
Second and placid voice. They do indeed, my dear Excellency. Needless to say, my heart is entirely on your side, but, as you know, in the case of a great historical people, the claims of the ego are holy.
In that case, tell them to go to the devil for a pack of liars. If you remain neutral, they won't give you anything.
Will you, if I leave off being neutral?
We? Of course we shall. Why, you shall have Gog and Magog.
I can have Gog and Magog merely by sitting tight, my dear sirs.
Well, and what else can you possibly want? Let's hear. Only don't be listening to their tomfoolery. Besides, we all know how unpopular they are with your people.
Not so unpopular as going to war.
Oh, your people only require to be told the real facts. A little propaganda will suit them. I don't believe they've been properly informed about the atrocities. That child with cut-off hands, for instance.
The child with cut-off hands has already been shown to us. But our people don't mind cut-off hands or gouged-out eyes. We had a lot of that of our own recently in Carthage. Besides, our most celebrated living literature always has some in each of his works.
Ha! Your immortal, though perhaps a little décolleté Angelo The very thing. A few dozen of his splendid odes in the principal papers.
Good for the students at the cafe, Dear Excellency. We statesmen don't leave off odes. Machiavelli already said as much.
Well then, what are your terms? Confound them. Confound you.
Gog and Magog, and all the territory. Maraschino, of course, the complete set of border glaciers, the kingdoms of the late Croesus and Polycrates, with the islands of the Cyclops for the classic associations. Prester John's empire, which is mentioned in Marco Polo. The heritage of our glorious sea kings is shown by the still existing flagstaffs, including, naturally, the seaboard of Bohemia, so much embellished by our valiant fellow countryman, Diocletian.
Seaboard of Bohemia? Come, you know to whom that belongs. And as to your Prester John, why he's neutral.
So are we for the moment, my dear sirs.
Another voice aside. Oh, throw in Prester John. He had a bite at him 30 years ago and he broke his teeth on him and let him have the flagstaffs of his sea kings. First, maar.
First voice. All right, but not the seaboard of Bohemia. That has been promised to our dear Ladislaus by the right of nationality.
The bland voice. Poor lady Ladiasis is already in, or rather already out, since he's squashed. He needn't have anything. Enfin, gentlemen, is it to be or not to be?
Several voices muttered together. I suppose we shall have to promise him something, and there's not much harm so long as he gets it for himself. After all, we haven't got any of it in our hands. All right, the kingdom of the late Croesus, and what's the other name? And Prester John, although he is a neutral, and the flagstaffs. There, you may take out a memorandum for a joint consideration.
The bland voice. A memorandum, singing. Umbiclitio ecolquit. Here's your memorandum ready to hand. Suppose all your gentlemen just put your signature to it before we finish this excellent café noir. The fact is, the other side are going to call for an answer at 4 o'clock.
Third voice. Wouldn't you like us to throw in a pair of trousers, my dear minister? Mine, as you see, are almost as good as new.
The bland voice laughs. What is it to be the most spiritual nation in the world? The gramophone wheezes, Satan changes the disc, the cinema shows a council table, many councillors who remain mute. First voice. They insist that we must really push on the Caesarea.
Second voice. But our fleet can't get through.
Oh yes, it can. It's supported by our army.
But our army can't get there by land.
Oh yes, it can, if it is supported by our fleet.
Anyhow, they insist that we should do something to get them Caesarea.
If neither the army nor the fleet can do it, what do you say to a joint effort of both? The gramophone wheezes, the cinema shows the terrace of a chateau in the war zone. A group of elderly men in various uniforms, to which some seem neither suited nor accustomed. First voice. As your experts have doubtless informed you, my government finds itself under the necessity of somewhat raising the ground rent of such portions of our territory as are occupied by your troops.
Second voice. Oh, indeed. I had not heard anything about that. In fact, to tell the plain truth, I had always taken for granted that as... In fact, if I may say so, our lines are helping to defend.
Alas, et qui dilos vous, my dear friends, et qui direz-vous? For this very reason, as the ground rents invariably tend to rise in wartime. Enfin.
But, considering that...
Ah, dear friend, how do you put that maxim of your national greatness, business, you say is, I think, business as usual.
Surely not in case of... In short, we imagined...
What a number of quite unimaginable eventualities we all have witnessed. Unimaginable, I say. Enfin, we have so far had only to congratulate ourselves on your great nation's, how do you say, procédé, which, as I shall always be the first to proclaim in the face of everyone, have hitherto always been d'un parfait gentleman, as that famous Frenchman said. His name escapes me at this moment. If I could not belong to my own nation, I should have no objection to belonging to yours.
Very gratifying, I am sure. Still, as between allies...
You speak of allies. Are you aware, monsieur, of the story which is at the moment circulating? I do not pretend it is a true story, but I can truly affirm that it is circulating in all the, how do you express it, all the lodges of the concierges of my country.
The concierges? I don't quite follow, my dear General.
The purpose of which story is that once you understand me well, my dear friends, more than once, if it had not been for our loyalty to you, we might have been adventurous.
Oh, my dear sir, is that all? Those boors rumors set going by enemy agents in the States?
Board rumors or not, I do not pretend to judge. I only tell you what is being said in the lodges of the concierge. I have it on the best authority that those vulgar persons say in their trifle language that they have had enough of getting their face, how do you express it, smashed se fatre casser la figure, to defend other people's ports.
Third voice, low. Oh, just let them gas. You know, it's a way they have.
First voice. And this brings me to the essential. Your government must not delay any longer putting its signature to that little agreement which we made with the great white bear, by which in return for Cesario he gives us the other bank of the river Haidifis. In fact, our natural boundaries are defined in the year 4 of the Republic, bien entendu, including the mines and antimony and the lake of asphalt.
He gives you your boundaries of the year 4. Why, my dear General, the great white bear is nearly 1,000 miles off.
Correct from the geographical point of view, perhaps, but geography is only the basis of politics. And now you have been told what those concierges are saying to each other in their familiar phraseology. The gramophone wheezes, the cinema shows an embassy with a disheveled man walking up and down, surrounded by well-groomed diplomats. First voice, very distressed. But I must stop, and I'm going to stop.
Several voices, encouragingly. Toot, toot, just hold on a little, and you shall be given Caesarea presently.
First voice, angry. Hang Caesarea, my country would not have it if you could give it, and you can't. I tell you, my country can't go on another month. We have no more munitions, and the people are starving by the thousands. They're mutinying and rioting on every side. There, don't you hear them yelling for peace? A fearful wolf-like sound from outside. Peace and bread, peace and bread.
Moet ik die even doen?
Ja.
A diplomatic voice, encouragingly. Fiddlesticks! All that is got up by enemy agents. Just you hold on till you get Caesarea.
Louder roar. Peace and bread. Satan interrupting. Bother, take the thing, a wrong disc. He fiddles with the gramophone, which slows off.
Oh, how truly thrilling. Why, it sounds like the French Revolution. Oh dear Satan, do please let them go on with that.
Satan, sorry to oblige you, dear Cleo, but it's a wrongly placed disc which doesn't belong to the set of the heads of the nations, with which you must, if you please, allow me to proceed at present.
What a pity. It was so truly exciting.
Satan, only have patience. I promise you plenty more of this kind of stuff very soon in a separate performance, and a remarkably interesting one that will be, though different from the Ballet of Nations. For the moment we must return to the diplomatists and journalists. While Satan is adjusting the gramophone, the blood-curdling yell, peace and bread is repeated and dies off in the gramophone's wheezing. Satan, there! Now we've got back to the Heads of the Nations series, alright. I must explain, however, that there were some unofficial peace feelers which have unluckily got mislaid. Also, a very funny person talking of peace without victory, which made everyone angry all round, until he said it was to be peace with victory and joined in, and that it would all come to the same in the end. But what is happening at present is that these people of the Great White Bear, whom you heard yelling just now, are actually making a separate peace. There. The cinema shows the inside of a saloon, a railway carriage, in a station, and a snowstorm against the windows. The saloon is filled with generals with fine fur coats over their uniforms and bearded men in sheepskin, coltons and peasants' boots and fur caps. First voice. No annexations and no indemnizations, comrades.
Second voice. The very thing. No annexations and no indemnities. Shake hands.
Not so fast, please. You are occupying Aurora Borealis. How's that?
Oh, that isn't annexation. That's self-determination.
All very fine, but what do you mean by condemning my corn?
Oh, that surely can't be called an indemnity.
Oh, it can't it? Well then, my friends, when you hear that we've stirred up a revolution in your country, please to remember that this isn't a treaty of peace, it's the beginning of the International Socialist Republic. Hurrah! A general jumps up and hits the table with his sword, crying, "That shall teach your people subordination." First speaker, waving a folded newspaper, "This shall teach your empire rebellion." The gramophone wheezes. The cinema shows a council chamber full of statesmen. First voice, "Don't you think, my lords and gentlemen, that the time might be nearly approaching when it might possibly be just as well to be beginning just to cast an eye on any possible, I do not mark, say, probable avenues leading to an eventual peace?"
Second voice. Avenues to peace. Almost the most dangerous things in the world. Let alone peace itself, which is, of course, the most dangerous thing of all.
The name of peace must not be mentioned till they have restored Brop Big Ding Nag.
Fourth voice. The name of peace must never be mentioned till they have given us back Lilliput.
The name of peace must not be mentioned till I've re-annexed the seaboard of Bohemia, the flagstaffs of sea kings, the kingdoms of...
Sixth voice. The name of peace must never be mentioned at all.
The gramophone wheezes. The cinema shows a court of law, packed with spectators. A voice. The name of peace must never be mentioned by any decent man or woman. Are any of you aware, I wonder, that at this present moment, this country harbors in its bosom 74,000 aliens from Sodom and Gomorrah, all busily plotting peace? Does that seem to too monstrous for belief, well, their names and addresses are all registered in a printed book. This young lady, whom I have called as a witness, has actually seen the book.
Female witness. I have. It was shown me by 2 gentlemen friends, since deceased, at a lunch party at Greenwich. It was bound in American cloth.
Judicial voice. Was it indeed, and did you see the contents of the book?
First voice. The contents, my lord, comprise the name of everyone here present who dares to ask pacifist questions.
The gramophone wheezes. The cinema changes back to a council chamber full of statesmen and various nationalities. As the dialogue proceeds, it changes to other council chambers in other parts of the world, which flicker in and out without interruption. First voice. But they appear to be talking of a possible restoration of Brobdingnag.
Second voice. Ha! A peace trap.
First voice. But they have suggested reconsidering the question of Lilliput.
Third voice. Oh, another peace trap.
Chorus of angry voices. Peace traps! Peace traps! All together.
Oh.
Zullen we het samen doen? Kijk
ja,
dat
is goed.
Who dares to mention peace till they have restored Brobdingnag?
Dat werkt niet. Nee, dat werkt niet. Volgens mij loopt één van ons een beetje achter met de verbinding.
Oh ja, oké. Ik doe hem wel even.
Ja, is goed.
All together. Who dares to mention peace till they have restored Brobdingnag and given back Lilliput, given me the seaboard of Bohemia?
Another voice. Given me also the seaboard of Bow.
One voice after another. We can't talk of peace till they have been dismembered and forever silenced. It wouldn't really be peace unless we received our strategic frontiers. It wouldn't really be peace unless we had restored our natural boundaries. It wouldn't really be peace until we had realized our racial aspirations. It wouldn't really be peace until we have reconstituted our historical empire.
One voice, deliberately. It wouldn't be peace until we had the other bank of the Hydaspes. It wouldn't be peace until we had got the mines of antimony. It would not be peace until we had realized the formula of the Carolingian kings and of the patriots of the A4. It wouldn't be peace till we had reclaimed the Asiatic appanage of our crusaders.
Someone in the council room hums. Partant pour le Syrie.
Moet ik die doen?
Ja.
Another voice, enthusiastically. It wouldn't be peace till we had fulfilled the aspirations of the nuncio. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the wedding of the Adriatic.
It wouldn't be peace until we have re-established the kingdom of Masipa.
Fourth voice. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the empire of Ziska.
Other voices. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the kingdom of Ladislaus. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the kingdom of Borealis. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the kingdom of Wenceslaus. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the kingdom of Mithrandaris. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the kingdom of Thrydatius. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the empire of Alexander. It wouldn't be peace until we re-established the empire of Solomon. It wouldn't be peace until we had re-established the empire of the Queen of Sheba.
First voice. It wouldn't be peace till all my bondholders get paid up their interest.
Chorus. Peace traps, peace traps, peace traps.
Imperturbable authoritative voice. We are out for lasting peace.
A hubbub of voices. Peace? Then why did we go to war? You promised, we promised, they promised. We insist on your promise. We have made no promise. We always keep our promises.
Authoritative voice, serenely. I repeat that we are none of us out for aggrandizement, but for the future peace of the world. We must go on fighting to establish a really lasting peace, equally just towards friends and foes.
A hubbub of voices. You promised, we promised, they promised. We insist on your promises. It isn't a matter of aggrandizement, it isn't a matter of prestige, it is a question of principle, it is a question of guarantees, it is a question of permanent peace. This must never happen again. We can't have such thing happening again. This must be the last war. We must have guarantees of future peace. We will fight to the last man until we have guarantees of future peace. A pause and wheeze. Lasting peace. Last man, last penny, last drop of blood, last war. Guarantees, 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 guarantees of lasting peace. The gramophone gabbles all this out louder and faster, while the cinema figures moves and gesticulates quicker, until there is nothing but a hubbub of we and we, they and you, with a sort of refrain of last man, last penny, last war, lasting peace.
The muse in ages to come, holding their hands to their ears. Oh, do stop that horrible row! Oh, what are they all talking about?
Satan suddenly switches off the current. The screen is again blank. The gramophone wheezes and stops. Satan, rather a babel, wasn't it? And what you have heard is comparatively plain sailing. Why, we haven't come to victory and its fruits, nor to the conflicting self-determination of the new nationalities. We haven't come to the 14 points and the secret treaties. We haven't come to famine and revolution and Bolshevism. Excellent as is my magic apparatus, you couldn't possibly make head or tail of that. It will take 50 years in 50 archives to clear up the muddle. Indeed, if you were to ask me, even I couldn't tell you on the spur of the moment how in the world it all leads to the end. Well, that is the kind of stuff that you, dear muse of history, will have to translate into clear and stately language for the benefit of our enlightened patrons here, the ages to come. And now you have seen my ballet of the nations under all its aspects. You will, I trust, appreciate its tragic splendor only the more for having adequately realized the paltriness of the mysterious machinery which lies behind it. This contradiction between the visible effects and the hidden cause it indeed one of the finest bits of poetic irony. Ladies and gentlemen of my indulgent audience, you will, I doubt not, also appreciate all that stage manager Satan owes to his varied and accomplished personnel. It needs the strident and crashing yet not inharmonious music of the orchestra of patriotism, the silver trumpet of idealism and woodland horn of adventure, the harmonium of self-righteousness, the rustling wings of pity and indignation, the youthful voice of heroism, even the whistles of and foghorns of poor old widow Fear and her grotesque and cruel children's suspicion and panic, to lend attraction and dignity to what my cinematograph, films and gramophone records have revealed to you. It needs deaf, cutting short Satan's speech. It needs ballet master deaf. En dan mag je, wacht maar. Deaf, who has been lying dead drunk across the sleeping body of heroism, has, with a sudden clatter of his bones, lurched up into a sitting posture, clasping his knees with skeleton hands. He nods and leers with drunken faculty at the muse and the ages to come, and repeats in drunkard tones, "It needs ballet master deaf. That's what it needs, my dears." The muse and the ages to come fall a step back, gathering up their garments in well-bred disgust, for with his change of posture it has become apparent that Death, who has been hitherto lying unnoticed, is the worse not only for liquor, but for all his previous exertions. The natty ballet master has turned into a tattered tramp. His bones have worked his evening suit into rags. His wig has fallen off, and through the rents of his once smart white waistcoat and shirt there's a glimpse of something far worse than a mere skeleton. Satan, with a gesture of wrath, "Silence, you filthy carnage, drunken sot!"
Death. "Oh ho, silence, quotha! Is it silence your lordship condescends to say to your poor disowned bastard now that you have let him have the honour of conducting for you your ballet of the nations, and he has made it into your greatest hit? Well, let me tell you, I respected illegitimate parent, that all your fine performance, your virtuous passions, oh yes, pity and indignation, Madame Idealism, and dear little Prince Adventure, and all your orchestra patriotism, would not have got a single spectator to sit through your silly performance if it had not been for Ballet Master Death and his school and rotten bones. Who cares a damn nowadays for Satan, or hell, or evil? Exploded myths, all of them. I am the great reality, who bring with me fear and suspicion and panic and cruelty and hatred and the harmonium of self-righteousness in all the popular performers. It is Ballet Master Death, let me tell you, empty transcendental archangelship, who draws an audience.
Satan remains speechless with anger.
Death, sitting up and turning around. Hello, you there, heroism, my jolly blind joy. You, at all events, have never doubted the powers of your old crony Death. Come, my lad, lend me a hand and help me onto my legs that I may go and sit on the throne of that metaphysical archangel of father of mine, so that the world may see that it is Ballet Master Death who runs its great dramatic shows and sets its people a-dancing.
Heroism, getting up from the ground. Whose is that hideous braggart voice which calls upon me in the name of Death? For that is not the voice, those cannot be the words of him I have so loved. And what for mercy's sake is this loathsome thing I have grasped? Heroism, who has stretched out his arm to clasp Death, suddenly withdraws his hand and holds it up in astonishment and disgust. Heroism, oh, what is this corruption which my fingers have met and still clings to them? The muse and the ages to come have retreated to the sides of the stage, Satan to the rear. Heroism remains alone in the middle of the stage, near Death, who has collapsed once more, and Heroism holds out at arm's length his own soiled right hand. Kun jij Heroism doen?
Ja, is goed. Heroism. Where is the Death I loved and followed so faithfully, the true, pure, lovely Death? Oh, horror, horror, horror. The muse. Horror? Surely that was the name which Satan called his ballet master in our talk. And what is all this about a true, pure, lovely Death? Ah, I remember. I now understand it all.
Heroism turning on Ballet Master Death, who now cowers, prone in his tattered evening clothes. And who art thou, usurping Death's sacred name, thou skeleton pollution? Heroism seizes Ballet Master Death and flings him, rattling like a broken puppet, against the footlights. Heroism then returns to the middle of the stage and stands sobbing like a man awakened from a nightmare and forcing open the lids of his blind eyes. Heroism... doe jij maar. Ja.
Oh, for some kindly surgeon to cut away at last this veil of blindness from my eyes.
Satan, stooping over Ballet Master Death and shaking his broken limbs, damaged but not quite done for, a democratic wig, a complete suit of newest idealistic cuts may make him still pass muster for a while. Ballet Master Death wheezes responsively like a broken bellows. Satan, but the most needed of all will be brand new set of manners, peaceful, fraternal, full of thought for the future, shakes him once more. You vile old-fashioned scarecrow, do you now understand that heroism has almost found you out for the preposterous, indecent anachronism that you are? And if by any chance that blind boy shall really be surgent into seeing, why then this will have been the last of our ballet of the nations. Whew. Dat was hem. Jeetje. Wel veel.
Ja, ik denk dat die laatste ook wel echt het allermoeilijkst wordt om dat in een bepaalde vorm te gieten waar het overzichtelijk blijft en een publiek een aandacht vasthoudt.
Ja.
Die is heel uitdagend. Ik merkte zelfs al bij het lezen dat ik af en toe echt het overzicht compleet kwijtraakte.
Ja.
Dat ik ook wel echt... Dat vrat ook even heel veel energie, zeg maar.
Ja, klopt. Ik ben wel een beetje gaar.
Ja.
Want misschien hadden meerdere mensen mee moeten doen. Om de focus te houden van het publiek inderdaad. Want het is wel heel veel van de grammar van Weezes. En er is een nieuwe scène van politicians of een monarch of het zijn wel heel veel scènes achter elkaar, ja.
Ja, zeker weten. Dus daar moeten we even dan naar kijken van hoe en wat.
Yes.